sports media has been feeling it over the past couple of months. You have Apple and MLS doing a huge deal. Sinclair finally is coming out with what they're going to do with their local streaming service.
And NFL TV free agency, John. Amazon signs Ryan Fitzpatrick officially, and we got him on the pod next. We're feeling it, I think.
Feeling it? It's in his last three-pointer. Feeling it? You can't make one in a series and you say feeling it.
And we're back. The Marchand OURAND Sports Media Podcast presented by USA Track and Field. He's John OURAND, the media reporter for the Sports Business Journal. I'm Andrew Marchand, sports media columnist for the New York Post. We're going to have for our big get, Ryan Fitzpatrick, recently retired, and now with Amazon. We'll have that a little bit later in the podcast. But we start, who's up and who's down?
Who's up? Who's down?
Andrew, why don't you lead us off?
My who's up, Adam Silver, NBA commissioner. Everyone's the ratings for the finals. They were good. They weren't good. They were up from last year. They weren't up from few. I don't care. They're good enough. What was really good for Adam Silver is this MLS deal with Apple, because at the least, it just gave the NBA all kinds of leverage, because, Apple, we already kind of thought Apple was going to be involved in the NBA negotiations when their deals are up with ESPN and Turner in 2025. But now you can really see a path for the NBA to do a deal with Apple of some sort. And at the least, major leverage. Amazon's likely going to be involved as well. It's hard to imagine they're not. So there already was leverage, but I just think they're going to get an incredible deal. And so we can talk ad nauseum about the ratings. We have Mike Bass, NBA VP of PR, making the ratings. They're great. They, and trying to get everyone to write really nice things about it. Bottom line, it's going to work out for Silver and the NBA. They got nothing to worry about, in my opinion.
Mike Bass, he was your who's down. Now Adam Silver's your who's up. I like it. Let's make that a topic, though, because I have a lot that I want to add to that as well.
All right, sounds good.
All right, my who's up. Surprise, surprise. Chris Ripley. I drove from DC to Cockeysville, Maryland, to Sinclair's home office for a sit down with Chris Ripley. He unveiled everything about the launch of his local sports streaming service. Soft launch June 23rd in Detroit, Kansas City, Miami, Milwaukee, Tampa. Full launch is coming this fall. There are lots of hurdles before we can say whether or not this is going to be a success, of course. But, Ripley is giving it his best shot at creating something that is going to work in concert with cable and satellite operators. So hats off to Chris Ripley.
All right, let's go to who's down. I need to go right away to who's down. I wrote on the rundown Chris Ripley, just to throw you off, but I'm crossing that out. My who's down, John OURAND.
This is an utter surprise to me, but I got to hear this. Go ahead.
You've been killing Chris Ripley. You make a little, how long was the drive?
It was like a more than an hour-long drive.
He hosts you in his office. You do the big story, and now Chris Ripley knows everything. He's got it perfectly down. So all it takes, one of these executives, is do an interview with John. Everything's 100%. It goes exactly reverses 180 degrees the other way. Look, I don't necessarily believe in this Sinclair move. Is this where it's moving? Like, we're going to talk further about this in the rundown, but is this where things are moving, where these local, in New York, where we see it, where the local teams have a direct-to-consumer product? Yeah. And will ESPN have go direct-to-consumer with the mothership within the next 4.5 years? Yes. But I don't know if this works. It seems like a hodgepodge. And the fact that now you have it on the who's up just because you got a little presentation and it's great. You're my who's down, John OURAND.
Oh, who's up is for the actual date. They have an actual date associated with it.
You get a date, you get a who's up?
Yeah. What's that?
Who's up? They used to, when I was a kid, who's ups were a lot more expensive now. They're not as they're easier to come by now. By the way, anybody listening, especially new listeners, John's, I think you nailed me on a couple of who's down at least twice previously. I don't think I've ever given you a who's down before.
And by the way, I've surprised you with every one of them. They haven't been on the show rundown at all.
Exactly. So I owed you.
That
I
was
owed
nice.
you.
Yeah,
All
I
right.
like that one. Well, my who's down is Jerry Reinsdorf, the owner of the White Sox and the Bulls in Chicago. There is a story in the Chicago Sun-Times. His local media rights deal with NBC Sports Chicago, it ends in 2024. And surprise, surprise, he's trying to get some negotiating leverage going and suggesting, hey, maybe they can grab the Blackhawks and launch their own regional sports network. Here's a little bit of free advice. Launching a regional sports network tethered to cable and satellite in 2024 is not a good idea. Don't do it, Jerry. It's like, just redo your deal with NBC and move forward with what's out there. There's the cord cutting that's happening now is going to happen even further in 2024. It is a miserable time to be. In fact, it's looking backwards to think, hey, my way forward is to launch a regional sports network.
It sounds like a leverage play to me, though, right?
No, totally.
Very transparent, though. Easy to understand. And all right, so Reinsdorf gets the who's down. We appreciate everyone listening to this podcast every week. You can subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. And then if you go up and you can write a review, and we do appreciate all the reviews and all the nice feedback we've gotten on the podcast. How many shows, do you know how many shows we're in, John?
This is our 38th show. We're approaching 40.
Wow. All right. So good. So we're almost in the 40. So we appreciate everybody. Subscribe wherever you find your podcast. All right, let's move to the topics. Topic 1, MLS and Apple. Now, this story broke last week on the pod, and we talked about it. We had initial reactions. We both wrote big stories about the deal. Yours looked at the interaction, how it all came together, and also the future. Mine was more about what this means, what's next. Yours was, both of them came out Monday. Mine was in my newsletter, yours in the Sports Business Journal. So just first off, I'm just going to lay it out for you to start us off. Like, now that you've done even more reporting, give me some takeaways that you kind of think we should hit on right away.
Well, so we talked about this in the last pod, and I think I was really surprised at how negative you were on that pod about this deal. I think it's a really good deal for Major League Soccer. They got a lot of money out of Apple. Major League Soccer to date, they were on ABC, ESPN, they were on Fox, and they were on Univision. They were on 3 of the biggest sports media providers in the country, and they haven't been able to grow the media numbers for their sport. Major League Soccer is an excellent at-venue sport. The stands generally are packed. The crowd is different than most American crowds. They're into the game. It hasn't translated to linear television. So why not go after Apple, get one of the biggest companies in the world that has a huge marketing might behind it, and you're not losing that much by going away from linear TV. And if they, as I've been told that is going to be a sure thing, are able to still get some games on linear TV, you can still attract some of the other people. I think for MLS, this was unreservedly a good deal, with the caveat that if one of those major media companies had been doing the same deal, they would have certainly gone with an ESPN or a Fox if they were offering that kind of money for all those packages.
Hold on a second. So you say it's a good deal, but if they had the option to go to ESPN or Fox for the same money, you said you think they would have stayed?
Yeah, but I think it's a good deal because that wasn't a deal that was out there. So they still got a good amount of money, and possibly will be growing the sport among people that are cord cutters or younger people that are conditioned to stream it. But I have a question for you, Andrew. You were very negative, I thought, last week. Are you still?
I wouldn't say negative. I can see how it can work. My big issue, and I talked to people from different leagues, including the MLS, different networks, agents for my story about what's next, what this means for others. And so, do I understand how this could work? Yeah. Like, I think that subscription is misunderstood a lot. And I do like the idea of the MLS and Apple addressing the global market in subscription. Like the idea of signing a player from Colombia and then selling subscriptions in Colombia makes sense, right? That is smart and is a new business model where if I'm network executives where they've been scared about Apple and Amazon forever, and you look at that model, again, it's not going to be in the short term, but long term, if that works, where they kind of can skip the middleman and Apple just houses these leagues and they sell subscriptions around the world, AKA the NBA, that is something that makes sense. The issue to me for the MLS is the product good enough to do that? I will say that in reporting, the big thing that that we talked about was the shocker, the 10-year deal, especially with the World Cup. With you figure in 26 when the World Cup is partly in the United States, you're going to see soccer become even more popular. There is an incentive possibly to add better players because if they can see that if they sign, I'm going to give you the top example, even though he's going to be a little bit past his prime eventually, is Messi. But if you say like if I sign Messi, I don't know how many people live in Argentina, but let's just say you get 1 million subscribers, right? And whatever they're going to charge here, because people have to see Messi or just around the world, then this might make sense, like mathematically in terms of growing the league. But the opposite of that, they don't make these big signings. And you have the league that it is now, which again, I've said I'm a huge soccer guy. It's good in stadium, but I can watch Premier League. I can watch Champions League. I can watch all these international leagues. And even though it's Apple and nobody's disrespecting Apple and everyone knows what they do in subscription, if the product's not good enough and MLS is basically in terms of a video product nearly irrelevant, that's where it doesn't work. And so, yeah, they did a good job. And I think last week, if you go back, I think the 250, the number they did a great job with, and the business plan makes some sense. I mean, they're MLS still at this point. And so even though they might not like hearing that, they're a top 10 league, but where they fall in that top 10 is definitely outside the top 5 and maybe even further towards 10 in terms of world league. So how do you make me go and go subscribe? And I do think the tiers are a little bit complicated when you look at it. So those are a couple of takeaways for me.
Well, it's interesting because down here in the DC market, they signed Wayne Rooney, international superstar. They couldn't sell their local rights down here. Like it just hasn't been a good TV product domestically. Could they sold some more in London under this new system or over in England? Yeah. Potentially people that would be interested might stop in and see it. I don't think MLS is losing anything by shedding linear television that people weren't watching and trying something different with one of the biggest companies in the
So yeah, I don't think I said for MLS. I have to listen to back exactly what I said. I don't think I said it was a bad deal for MLS. I just don't know if it's going to work.
No, right? I don't think you said it was a bad deal for MLS. I think that you were more saying that you didn't think it was going to work. And I think that's something that actually we agree with. That the whole 10 years, what happens if let's do a worst case scenario after 3 years, nobody's doing this, nobody's running it, and Apple kind of washes its hands. I mean, this is something that MLS is really going to have to market on its own.
Here's the question I have for you, okay? And my buddy Mark Apter is in TV. He's a college buddy of mine. Pointed this out. Wanted me to say this to you, John. Is that he gets notifications?
Hey, tell Mark to come to me directly. All right, I don't want to have to go through you. Goodness gracious.
Exactly. So the notifications. Yeah, I mean, I get notifications for the Yankee game on your phone, right? You can that's so like, what is Apple gonna do to get me to watch that and to get me to subscribe? And let me say two things. I'm gonna counter myself though here. I do think people do underestimate subscription because with subscription, everyone always says nobody's gonna subscribe, and that's true. Most people don't subscribe to things, but when Apple can reach 2 billion people, you don't need most people. Right? You don't need that many people to have a successful business, and we don't know what they're going to charge. But that said, what is Apple going to do? I get it. They're great in subscription. I believe in them in subscription, but you still have to want the product, right? And so what are they going to do in your mind to get me to subscribe to an MLS package? Because it's the top tier that they're really selling here. The rest is, I mean, to me, it's counterintuitive. Let me just say one more thing before you answer my question, because just so people understand who don't fully, they're going to have basically what I've called MLS Plus, which is a subscription service that will, you can get every game. You won't have to worry. Wherever you are in the world, you can watch every MLS game. You pay this fee. Then they're going to have some games to Apple TV Plus subscribers, and then they'll have some games that are free to Apple TV Plus. Right. And I don't know who's going to watch those, right? You're either in on MLS or you're not. I don't think you're going to be like, let me flip on Apple TV and see if they happen to have an MLS game. And then they're going to have linear with either ESPN, most likely, and Fox, and maybe Fox too. They'll have maybe a game a week and maybe MLS Cup on there. So I believe in subscription, but like, what is Apple going to do to make John Ourand or me subscribe?
It's not just Apple, it's also MLS. And we talked about this a little bit last week. You know, they're going to strip out the games so that you're going to know when these games are being played, you know, the whole Wednesday night, Saturday night. Apple knows how to get people to subscribe. So whether it's, you know, an alert on your phone, or for Father's Day, my daughter got me an Apple Watch. Like I'm tethered to Apple. They have a lot of different ways in order to come and alert me to this. But I think the main thing is that it goes even beyond Apple. MLS has to get out there and has to start getting their players better known. They have to start getting storylines that start to attract the sort of the more casual sports fans. And, you know, it's both of those working in concert. I don't think anybody expects, okay, it's with Apple, now all of a sudden let's push a button and let's go. This is a lot of money for MLS. It's nothing to Apple, nothing at all. This is still very much, in my opinion, a test to see whether or not this works and how it works. And they're going to, one thing that Apple does is they're going to figure out how to best market to bring in the hardcore soccer fans, the casual sports fans, and watch it. But what's going to happen on day one? I mean, your guess is as good as mine. The
one thing I would say I was wrong about from last week, you know, after doing more reporting, I do think it is significant that the game times, Wednesday, Saturday, you're going to know what time the games are. It's important for the season ticket holders or people going to games to know when they are. And that does make sense. That is a point that I didn't fully appreciate in terms of this deal and their ability now to have those games on at a certain time. So there's, you know, it's like a TV show, right? If Seinfeld wasn't on every Thursday, it was on randomly, not totally randomly, but kind of randomly, it wouldn't have done as well. So that does give it more of a fighting chance. And so I think for MLS, it does make some sense. I just think it is Apple, but they're going to an unproven mechanism, right? We don't know that streaming works in this, you know, mythology. And I will tell you, and I'm still very negative on streaming in total. Yeah. They're somewhat going it alone in terms of like their one entity. I think if you look at like with WWE, when they went to Peacock, they're in an overall entity. And I guess you could argue MLS is an overall entity with Apple TV Plus, but Peacock, I mean, the WWE just took the money from Peacock, and it makes sense because I don't know, just selling subscriptions, you really need to be part of something bigger. And maybe they are with Apple TV. Maybe I'm kind of wrong there, but I just feel like it's easier just to take the money. Like that's what all these leagues have learned. That goes back to my who's down and REINSDORF. Like, do you really want to set up your own like streaming service for all these games? Or do you really want to set up, do you know how costly it is to set up your own network and get the production and everything that's associated with it and have it be at the quality that your fans expect? But more to the point, our excellent producer, Chris Mason, can you clip out, Andrew said he was wrong, and I just hope you can clip that out. Episode 38. I'm impressed. It's first for everything. Okay. We're going to funnel into the NBA deal. So let's just funnel. We're going to like look at this rundown. This is very, we spent minutes putting this rundown together. Let's just compare what Amazon and Apple are doing. We won't overdo it, but if you could choose one, do you like what Apple's doing so far, or do you like what Amazon's doing? Apple's not done yet. If Apple is able to get Sunday Ticket and then have another subscription product alongside its MLS subscription product, they're just two different strategies
I don't know which one I favor. They're different though, because Apple is relying so much on subscription. Apple is making the decision that they need to make money off of this. Amazon it's almost a loss leader, some of these deals that they're making. So they have exclusive Thursday Night Football, of course. They're doing stuff with the Yankees. They have stuff internationally with cricket and tennis and all these other things. There's no subscription to it beyond like getting Prime. And so they're two totally different strategies. I have a feeling you're going to go with Amazon, so I'll go with Apple.
Well, I will say this is what I would go with. I do think Sunday Ticket becomes even more important because now Amazon already has a budding relationship with the NFL, with Thursday Night Football. But the thing that I think is scary for other networks and companies is if this works to some degree with MLS, because this is a new model of a way to do it. And if you're the NFL and 11 years from now, it's proven that the MLS Apple deal worked and you have all these rights. And yes, they get paid so much money, $110 billion over these next 11 years from all these different entities. And that's hard to add up to more than that. But let's just say you can, right? There's 100 million people who watch the Super Bowl, right? And when you start talking about subscription services where you get into the 50, 100, 150 million people, that's how you change business models. And so to me, that Sunday Ticket relationship especially for Apple, because Amazon already has the NFL relationship, where does that go if they were to get it, and where can that lead to? And that's why, to me, this could have been a groundbreaking agreement between MLS and Apple, not as much about MLS, but more about what this could mean for the future of how we watch sports, how we pay for viewing sports. To answer your question, at the moment, I like Amazon over Apple, but because, you just gave it to Apple, and I'm going to keep you to that. So Chris Mason, please clip that. He said Apple, but they have Friday night baseball that nobody watches, and MLS, which is like the 7th or 8th, maybe 6th best league in the world in soccer. So that's their plan. Meanwhile, Amazon has Thursday night football with the most important entity in American.
The worst package, yeah.
Okay, but American entertainment, they have that. They have a deal with the Yankees, the preeminent team in baseball, and you can and probably a top 5 team franchise in the world. And then they got deals outside. They're probably gonna do a Big Ten deal, and maybe they'll get Sunday Ticket. So I'll go Amazon at the moment. But look,
did you just drop? They're probably going to do a Big Ten deal.
Yeah, I dropped that on you.
You think Amazon's probably going to do?
I think they're going. I think they're going to get a game or two. Yeah.
Interesting.
Look, that's not 100%. I'm not reporting that. So just
no. You just kind of like let that go. I just wanted to pick
probably,
that up.
But I do think now we finally are seeing the Amazon play. I was happy, by the way, in your story that you wrote, you said that they were trying to keep it secret, and then in January it got serious. And I just went. And if you read the Post Plus newsletter in January 31st, I think it was Apple and MLS was written and reported.
Apple,
I know you're going to mention that. And where was that? Why isn't that mentioned in the Sports Business Journal? Didn't make it in there.
My editor cut that out.
Okay.
Apple, one of the most secretive companies probably in the world. They're NSA like or CIA like. Welcome to sports. People in sports talk.
Sports media is different. Sports media is different, man.
Listen, we had Gary Bettman on a couple of weeks ago as our big get, and he was talking about the NHL's deal, which is, if you're an NHL fan and you subscribe to ESPN Plus, you get everything. You see every game is there, and he thought that was really important as a way forward. Apple's doing the same. If you're an MLS fan, a true MLS fan, this is great for you.
When they do the numbers, John, they're giving it to season ticket. Your diehard hardest fans, they're giving it free to season ticket holders.
Season ticket holders.
So that's like, let's just say they have 10,000. I don't know what their season tickets are, but let's just say at minimum, I would say they average 10,000 season tickets per team, some much higher, some much lower, and it might even be higher. But just give me, let's say that's 300,000. So that's the minimum. So when they give us subscriber numbers at some point, that's the minimum. You start 300,000, they're already given away. All right. So, like how many more above that are there? That's the question. And how many people, how many guys you signed in Colombia how many subscriptions are you selling to Apple TV Plus? I actually think look, I do think, again, subscription businesses do work, especially when they have that type of scale. So I like MLS's plan. I just don't know if the product's good enough to really bring in enough people to really make it sing.
Just to spill this off to the NBA, if this does work for Apple, and what Apple wants is they want the whole the kitchen sink. They want everything, which is what they did with MLS. When the NBA comes up, remember, Apple can buy and sell Warner Brothers Discovery and ESPN several times over. If this works, they can outspend on getting NBA rights. I will say this, when it comes to NBA rights, it's still way too early to handicap, but that's what we do on the pod, I suppose.
Yeah.
I can't imagine a scenario where ESPN and Turner allow NBA rights to go away.
I can. Okay, clip that one too. I mean,
Clip
I
that
can.
one, please, Chris Mason.
I'm not saying it's going to happen. I just say I think there's a scenario. And look, this is different. Sinclair. So we just continue this conversation because it's all interwoven. The Sinclair story you had the other day. Can you just boilerplate like what you were saying, and in your big interview where Chris Ripley just wowed you to death
With Chris Ripley, it was in Cockeysville, Maryland. Maryland.
saying that. Why do you love saying Cockeysville?
Because you know why? Everybody from Cockeysville, they tried to like rebrand it to Hunt Valley, Maryland.
Oh,
It's not Hunt Valley, it's Cockeysville.
There's some inside joke you're getting. Get Cockeysville. Cockeysville. It's like,
I love it.
talking about?
I love it.
right,
Maryland
go for it.
has the greatest town names. There's Skaggsville, Maryland. Cockeysville, Maryland. It's the best. They are in the process of figuring out. It's a soft launch for their local streaming service. They're going to have a full launch coming in the fall. If local sports are going to work in streaming, like they're trying to figure out how to do this. So that there is, not right away, but eventually there's going to be a lot of gambling capabilities on the streams that you certainly don't get on linear television. There's going to be a lot more sort of personalization they're going to know who's watching much more so than television. But what Ripley said, that he believes that the cable bundle and streaming can coexist next to each other for this foreseeable future. He doesn't see the cable bundle necessarily going to zero, and he's hoping that the cable bundle doesn't go to zero. That's why Nesson's at $30 a month. That's why for its streaming service. That's why he priced it. Ripley priced the Bally Sports Plus at $20 a month. They don't want to make this so affordable that people give up their cable subscriptions. They just want to try to attract the people that either have already given up their cable subscriptions or never had their a cable subscription, and they're trying to get those people. But they're trying to price it at such a way to try to keep the cable bundle going as much as it possibly can, because that's where the RSNs and ESPN and Turner Sports and all these companies, that's where they make all their money.
The big takeaway for me there is you said about the gambling is if you're going to do a streaming, the latency issue, you're going to have to figure that out because, John Oren's going to be at the game texting me, Aaron Judge has got a hit and I'm going to put a big bet on it before the stream comes through. So I don't know. They need to figure that out before, I know it's a soft launch right now, but they
after that we'll be doing the Mando pod from the beach, a little Mai Tai in hand.
Exactly. Yeah. We get on one of those, gambling sites. So we bring it back to MLS. How MLS is selling their rights makes more sense to me, right? Like if you look at the Athletic, right, this is a much smaller scale with what the Athletic has done, but you buy the Athletic usually probably for one either team or one person, and then you end up getting other stuff if you're a person who likes the Athletic, right? So for Sinclair, you might buy it for one team, but you also need to get other things, right? And so, I don't, especially at that price point, are those games just worth it? $20 a month? That's a significant amount just to watch the Cleveland Guardians play, especially when it's so stark like that and you can cancel it.
You know what you said? You say $20 a month, which sounds like a lot. What Ripley would say is it's less than $1 a game.
We're gonna do coffee analogy soon. I mean, I get it.
You know what they did do? They did do the Starbucks, a cup of coffee at Starbucks.
We always get the coffee.
No, if you're talking about
that.
if
We
they're
all,
talking
every
about-
one of us who was in this business has thought, like, you know, how about if I did my own subscription services? Yeah, you only have to give me, it's less than a coffee. You can listen, you can read my stuff for, you know,
No,
for
but
this
it,
much
like,
money.
look, we were talking about Apple. If you're talking about the iTunes of sports, would you pay 99 cents a game through Apple? That sounds somewhat affordable to me.
Well, yeah, MLS did mention that. I wonder, can you just get individual games? That is something that I think could have some interest.
I actually don't know the answer to that.
Yeah, I don't. From what I could tell, that isn't in play.
I don't think it is. Yeah.
But that would be something that I think would make some sense because, and also it'd be a way to get people to get the full package, is because I could buy this one game, you know, and then it's like, oh, this is pretty good. Let me get the whole thing. That's something to say. All right, let's bring it into the NBA now, because what I wrote about the other day on Monday in my newsletter that comes out every Monday, although I'm going to be off next week. Ryan Glass-Steagall filling in. Great Ryan Glass-Steagall. We'll be doing it next week. I wrote about what's next, and I do think the NBA, they don't have the regional sports network deals coming up like the MLS did, but it's also a different ball game. As you wrote in your story, there are 4 teams that make money in the MLS in terms of their rights. You know, one of those teams, sources told me that Yes was paying NYCFC $3 million a year. The fees for the NBA regional sports rights are way, way more. So, you know, they're not as incentivized to be like, whatever about these local rights. Like the MLS, those rights were basically worth nothing for 24 of those teams, right? There's 28 teams, I believe, in the MLS right now. They're not going to do that type of deal. But
By the way, if you want to understand why all the traditional media companies passed on MLS, it's like, well, let's get this package of games that gets virtually no rights fees and very little viewership, and try to sell it to the traditional media companies for more. Of course, they passed on that.
exactly. And also, like, ESPN and Fox are going to pay nothing for these games, and they're not even, I doubt they'll even produce them. Like, I think MLS will continue to produce them, and they'll just put them on their air. I don't think you're going to get like a new production from ESPN, maybe, but their games are still going to be on Apple if you have that subscription service. But yeah, I think the NBA is in a good place to figure out a deal maybe with Apple. I'm sure the NBA, I don't know exactly, but sells some kind of, you know, you can watch the games overseas, but I think those are rights fees. But if they did some kind of subscription service internationally with Apple, that might work. Like, you have a lot of international players. The NBA touts itself, and rightfully so, as an international game. If you start selling those, you want to watch Luka Doncic, you need to, you know, internationally, maybe there's a subscription service that way. Like, I don't know where those rights deals are in terms of the international, you know, and it might be obviously different each country, but there might be something there. That's the point with Apple and the NBA, where they can figure out something, and there's creative people involved with incentive to do it. So at the least, it's going to be leverage, right? So it's a problem for ESPN from Turner, and why I think there's a very good chance they'll return the rights. I don't think it's a guarantee, just because of that reason. Also, Amazon as well. So it's good to be the leagues, though. The TV ratings might be going up, but I think the fees are going down. I should say TV ratings might be going down, but I think the fees are still going to be going up.
It's good to be the leagues if you're a big league. If you're an NFL, if you're an NBA, I mean, if you're a small time league like you know, let's say like a Conference USA, you know, that's trying to get something out there, it's going to be tough, and it's especially going to be tough if they're moved to a streaming service, and then only people that really want to see that conference are going to be going to get it. It's going to be much less about being on ESPN or being on CBS and other people sort of like, you know, channel surfing by it.
Let's go to Fitzpatrick now, and then we'll do a couple quick hits and call the week after Fitzpatrick. John, joining us now on the Big Get, Ryan Fitzpatrick. Ryan just joined Amazon. He's going to be on their exclusive coverage of Thursday Night Football every week, doing the pre and post game and halftime. Richard Sherman already announced. Also, Tony Gonzalez. I've reported Carissa Thompson is likely going to be the host. Ryan, congrats on the new gig, and also your great career in the NFL. My first question really is, do you have Amazon Prime?
I don't think we could live without it. I know all the Amazon delivery people very well, see them multiple times a day. But yeah, I could not be happier. I think this is going to be a great segue for me into a different part of my career, and I'm very happy to be joining the Amazon team.
Yeah, John, Ryan has 7 kids.
Ryan, I'm one of 6 kids, so I can appreciate that growing up.
Yeah, we've got quite the busy household. Right before the Zoom, I just had to kick everybody out because I can't keep them all quiet. So,
It sounds quiet.
yeah.
Yeah, we've had on the pod as our big get, Ryan. We've had Jimmy Pitaro, we've had Steve Bornstein, we've had Gary Bettman. I believe you might be the smartest person that we've had on this. Can you tell us about the Wonderlic test? What there are different things that we said. Did you ace it?
So thank you for bringing up how smart I was. I know I put that in the notes for what to talk about. So the Wonderlic test was, I took it at the combine. I remember, sitting next to Timmy Chang, if you remember that name, and y'all kind of get put in a room. And I think the most difficult thing about it, 50 questions, is it's 12 minutes. And so everybody is just trying to rifle through it. We're worried about, what the teams are going to think, how we're going to score, is somebody cheating off me? So I did it as fast as I could and turned it in. And I guess the results were good, but the Wonderlic and playing football in the NFL, especially playing quarterback, I don't know that there's much of a correlation there.
So Ryan, can you still play?
I'm actually not sure. I think, I pushed my rehab as far as I could. And before I had to make the decision of what I was going to do, my hip is not 100% healthy, and I don't know if it ever will be, but I think I'll dominate in the Turkey Bowl on Thanksgiving, as long as there's no contact.
You're an analyst now with Amazon. So your first assignment, assess Ryan Fitzpatrick's football career.
It was quite the journey. I mean, it was a whirlwind. I think I put a lot of smiles on a lot of faces, not just, teammates, not just coaches, not just people in the building, but fans as well. And I think especially towards the tail end of my career, I had a lot of fun and was very comfortable in who I was and was able to show fans a little bit more of that. But I enjoyed every second of my career. It was crazy, the amount of moving, the amount of different teams. But on the flip side of that, the amount of people that I have met, the amount of relationships that I have in this league are so incredible. And, I'm very lucky to have them. A funny one real quick, the now head coach of the Denver Broncos, Nathaniel Hackett, and I, in 2009 we're together, and he was the lowest of the low, basically, getting coffee for everybody and, making suggestions here or there on footwork and plays. And so we really, learned some stuff together. And so to go through it and to see some great successes like that have been a lot of fun.
Ryan, I need to go back to the 7 kids thing again. How do you, how do you transport everybody around?
Well, so going from 6 to 7 was a huge decision for me and my wife. Not 5 to 6, 4 to 5, are we going to have one? It was 6 to 7, because you've got to move out of a minivan and go to some sort of bigger transport vehicle. And so we did it. We made the decision, 7 kids it was, and we had to get rid of the normal. It was actually a mermaid color Honda Odyssey. And we went with the Nissan Envy, big 12 passenger van, just goldfish and Cheetos crushed and barbecue sauce everywhere, but it gets the job done.
And now, is that it? 7 kids? Are you done? Or is it, we still could go for the 2-point conversion here?
So we'll put the full court press on my wife. Maybe I'll give you her number and we could Zoom and ask her. But right now, I think we're fine with 7.
All right. Now, when you look at the media, when you're a player, Sundays, obviously you're playing, but do you pay attention? Like, how much do you pay attention to what's being said, the shows that are on, talk shows? When you're in New York, you got the back pages, the Post, etc. How much did you pay attention to all that stuff?
I think it's important, especially as a starting quarterback of a team. I think it's important to have your finger on the pulse, to know what the vibe is, what's being talked about. And a lot of times you can feel that, but to also know the narrative going into each week, the narrative from the week before, those are things I was always very conscious of, just because I felt like it was an important thing to know and to feel. And So going into this next part of my life here, I was always able to make great relationships with media members everywhere I was. And part of the reason was I could separate, if you said something bad about me as a player, it didn't mean that you hated me as a person. And I think players a lot of times have a hard time making that separation. I never really did. And so I always felt like I was treated fairly, whether it was nice or something, you know, that was said that was not so nice, but it was always about my play on the field and never necessarily an attack on who I was as a human being. So I always made great relationships and enjoyed the media everywhere I was.
Ryan, why did you feel it was important to understand or to know about those narratives?
Because I think it's important when you're, especially when you're playing at home, it's important to know, you know, the mindset of the fan base going into a game. It's important to have that feel, even when I'm giving interviews or answering questions. It's important for me to know where everybody else is coming from, to know where the fan base is, to know where the members of the media are, in order for me to respond to some of these questions with good answers. So it's something I always thought was really important.
Now, Ryan, if you could have one do-over in your playing career, what would it be?
Yeah, I mean, you know, the biggest thing for me when I think, gosh, let's talk about or think about one game. I mean, when we were in New York in 2015, you know, we're 10-5. We'd won 5 games in a row, had some great momentum, you know, hopefully to carry us into the playoffs, and ended up losing in Buffalo. I mean, that's the one game I look back on in my career and think, man, if, you know, I just could have gotten that game. If we could have gotten that game, then that would have been a fun postseason, I think, because it was a great team and with a lot of great veteran guys.
When you look at Thursday night, you have Richard Sherman already in there. You have Tony Gonzalez. You know, I mentioned maybe Carissa Thompson. What do you think it's going to be like?
Well, I just met Tony and Richard. You know, I'd seen them on the field and we played against each other, maybe a handshake or a butt tap here or there, but it just really got to sit down and talk with them and meet them in person. And I was really impressed. You know, Tony, obviously one of the greatest tight ends to ever play, Hall of Famer, looks beautiful. He's got the skincare products that, you know, everybody's after him for all the beauty products, but really a down to earth guy, great personality, fun to be around. And then Sherm, I think what he's going to bring to the table, he's one of the smartest DBs to ever play, you know, and he'll be the first to tell you it wasn't always necessarily about talent with him. It was about being able to dissect and diagnose plays before they happen and to know what an offense was going to do based off of splits. And he was so good and so smart, you know, tough guy to go against as a quarterback, because you always felt like you try to have the upper hand against the defense, and he was always one step ahead of you for whatever reason. And so for him to be able to bring that to fans, you know, to the table to talk about, to kind of share, and from my offensive perspective and his defensive perspective, I think it's going to play really, really well.
You're starting with Amazon. You're going to be part of the studio crew with Amazon. What's your goal in media? Do you eventually want to do games, or where do you hope this progresses?
So right now, I don't know. I mean, right now, my goal is to do this, to try to have fun with it and really figure out if I'm any good at it. I think it's something I'm really going to enjoy. I think everybody will tell me every week whether I'm good at it or not. I don't think there will be a shyness of opinions from anybody with Twitter and everything else out there. My 7 children may be my hardest critics, you know, we'll see on that
Will
one.
be
But
your hardest critics.
yeah, there's no doubt about that. But for me, the draw is 17 years of experience in the NFL, plus, you know, as long as I've been playing football, just growing up. I don't want it to go away. I don't want all these experiences and my perspective to just fall and die. I want to be able to share some of this with the viewers at home. And I think I'll bring a unique experience, a unique perspective that people are going to enjoy.
Who do you think is good at this?
I mean, recently, you know, obviously Tony Romo's one that everybody talks about. I think being with Jim Nantz was very helpful. I actually asked my wife, I said, why do you like Tony Romo? And one of the things with her, and, you know, he does different things that I'm going to do initially, but she said, he puts my eyes in the right spot before the play. And I thought, well, that's okay. That's pretty insightful. I like that. But I want to be able to share my wealth of knowledge and experience with everybody. And I think, whether that's my grandma tuning in or, whether that's young kids, to be able to have fun with it, to be able to talk in a way that everybody can kind of understand it and take something from it. That's what I want to do.
Last one for me. Would you want to coach one day?
So in another lifetime, I think I would love to coach, but with the 7 kids and kind of where we are with our oldest being in high school and the amount of time and commitment every single day that it takes to be a football coach at the highest level, I just don't think I'd be able to commit that time right now. That being said, it's something I know at some point I'd love to do, but I can't do it right now.
Ryan, my last one, I got to go a little bit local. I'm in the DC market. Your last team, of course, Washington football team. Are we going to be good this year?
Well, it's the Commanders now, right? I mean, we're all trying to get used to the new name, but I'm excited. I think it's interesting to see what's going to happen with Terry McLaurin and the contract deal there. I think I'll just put this out there and say, in terms of a pillar of your team and somebody you want as a representative, somebody that's going to come in and go to work every single day, somebody that has the talent, somebody that's a great representation as a human being for a team. I think Terry is that. And so I'm hoping that something gets done there. I think last year there was a lot of different things, injuries that came up, but if you just look at the talent on that team on defense, and now with some of the added pieces on offense, Carson's going to be a big factor in how he comes in and plays. But I'm looking for big things from Washington this year.
Well, now I got to ask a New York one. John, you got to give me a New York. I got a bonus question.
I'll give you a New York one, but it sounds like Ryan just said 8-8. That's what I heard out of that.
No, and so I got to get used to this too. But there's 17 games,
17 games.
So they don't let you say 8-8 anymore. Yeah, so it's either going to be 8-9 or 9-8.
9-8, got it.
Yeah.
That's my question. Will either the Giants or Jets finish above 500?
I don't think so.
All right.
Yeah.
Look at John. The first thing is to be honest, right? So he could have tried to. He could have been like, what should I say here? But yeah, I don't think you need credibility as an analyst, so you can't just come out of the gate and not tell us the truth there. But Ryan Fitzpatrick, listen, congratulations! Obviously, a tremendous career. 7th round pick out of Harvard to have so many great moments in the NFL, and now Amazon Thursday nights with their exclusive package. It's gonna be fun to watch. Looking forward to it, and we really appreciate you joining us on the Marcia and OURAND Sports Media Podcast.
All right, thank you guys. Thanks for having me.
What a good interview. I really one thing I took away from that, he's such a thoughtful person. Like, he doesn't even know if he's going to be good doing it, but he wants to flex that muscle, and he wants to try to get better at that.
I think he's going to say some things that are going to cause some headlines. That's my opinion. I think he's a smart guy. I think we saw a little bit of there, but I think he's going to be a little not that he's wants to be unfiltered, but I just think that's just how he is. And I think when he's on live stream, I think he'll say some things that are interesting. So I'm pretty high on Fitzpatrick. Will he have an 8th kid? That's the question. We have to get. I don't know.
No, he said decidedly no. I think the answer to that is no. Absolutely.
We need to get his wife on the phone. Get her as the big get to find out if there'll be an 8th child.
Hey, before we hit call of the week, let's do some quick hits. Drew Brees.
So I'm not going to report that it's not going to happen, but I think the wind's blowing for him not to be Fox's number 2 analyst. That's just what I've heard. I've kind of heard it's probably not going to happen, but I'll leave that door still a little bit ajar. Initially when I heard that he was leaving NBC, I heard he's taking a year off, and that was the plan. And I think he's going to stick to that from what I've heard. So maybe Mark Sanchez, maybe they try Daryl Johnston, bring him back. They did that a couple of years ago, just as kind of a placeholder number 2. Sanchez would be a big promotion. They also have John Vilma still on the roster. I guess they could look outside. College, Joel Klatt, I doubt they'd move, but he's their number 1 college analyst. They get a lot of people for those college games on Big Noon. And they also have Brock Eward, who's their number 2. He did play in the NFL, so that would be a little out of the box, but I guess they could consider him as well. But they'd stick one of the NFL guys, I would think, as the current NFL guys to move up to that 2 slot.
All right. On last week's pod, you were shouting out a couple of play-by-play announcers who did 2 championships in the major sports. You have some additions to that list.
Yeah, we said we wasn't a complete list. Bob Costas
Of course,
the,
I can't believe
World
I left him off.
Yeah, I think I had him on I think I wrote it down. I don't, for some reason I didn't say it. So a dreaded glitch award. Well, to Rudy Mortsky. Bob Costas, he did the NBA Finals and he did the World Series. And then this was a great one. Marv Albert, of course, did the NBA Finals, but got an email from Jerry Johnson, reader, listens to the pod. And he pointed out to me the old NHL network syndicated to UHF stations in the 70s. I checked in with Marv. That was accurate. And so Marv Albert also Stanley Cup and the NBA Finals. Sean McDonough has joined that with his Stanley Cup Finals. We were talking about last week, the big four major sports and who's done two of those championships. Now McDonough joins that group with people like Joe and Jack Buck, et cetera, and who've done two of those with him doing the World Series previously with CBS and now the Stanley Cup with ESPN.
New news. I never knew that about Marv.
Yeah, I didn't either.
Right.
That's before my time. I mean, I was born in 74. This sounds like, this was 7. So I was 3 years old. I could
And then
watch.
finally, you're going to be feet in the sand next week. What's going on here?
Yeah, I'm going to be off. Well, here's the question. All right. This is the big question that's going around. A lot of people are talking about this. Well, nobody is. But back in the day, and John's going to like this, when Mike and the Mad Dog, and by no means am I comparing us to Mike and the Mad Dog in their heyday, but Mike and the Mad Dog, when they first started off, Francesa went on vacation and Russo changed the jingle to take Francesa out of it. So here's my question. I'm going to be on vacation next week. John has a special guest host, very big time guy, for his special guest host. I don't know if he's going to reveal it now. The question is, will John change the song? Will he change the order of how he says the names, like in the opening of the podcast? That's the big question. John's ego.
Yeah, you know what? The OURAND and Marchand Sports Media Podcast. I like the way that sounds, Andrew. Good idea. I'm not ready to announce the guest host because I don't want anybody getting to him and saying like, why the hell are you doing this?
Okay.
Well-known name, one of the top executives in the business. I can't, I'll miss you. But I can't wait to get him on.
I could be Wally Pipp. Never have to do it again. All right. All right. Let's finish this one off.
All right. And then we have call of the week.
Call of the week.
Andrew, you and I both have said how much we like ESPN's NBA telecast. I think Breen, Van Gundy, Jackson, they work well together. And this call of the week, to me, is a total example of that.
Kicks it out to Green. Green feeling it after hitting one. Huggins's trying to tip it. Stop. Absolutely. Feeling it. It's in his last three-pointer. Feeling it? You can't make one in a series. And I say feeling it. Have you watched him shoot him? They haven't even been close. He hits when he's fired up. No, he's fired up, but he's not feeling it.
I almost didn't want to highlight that because I don't want other announcers to try to force that in. I mean, after all, this was the deciding game of the NBA Finals. But I just like how Jeff Van Gundy and the repartee between the three of them, and he called Breen out. Like, he's feeling it. He wasn't feeling it. He, like, of all people, to say that he's feeling it.
100%. They had, Breen missed the first couple of games. Van Gundy missed the game, and they had a really good series after that. And that's it. The chemistry that they have, and Van Gundy's very good off the cuff with saying things like that. So that was a nice call of the week for sure. John, to wrap it up, so we'd like everyone to subscribe. You just hit the little button on your, Spotify or Apple. And then if you want to, we've been asked this, if, a lot of people know how to do this, and a lot of people have given us very nice reviews and we appreciate it. If you want to give us a review, you want to give us a rating, go back to your library, hit on the Marchand OURAND Sports Media Podcast, scroll down a little bit, ratings and reviews, and then you can tap to rate. So there's a couple of steps there. And if you say, say something nice, it really is helpful. Except if you say it about next week's show, because then they might fire me. Anyway, see you, John. I'm out of here.
Hey, but before you go, Andrew, I just want to give a quick shout out to our ace producer, Chris Mason. AC, are you still on here? What is AC's title? I think AC is an executive, the executive with SBJ.
AC Wyatt is a candidate for Executive of the Year.
Sorry, I'm still not sure about that.
Well, soon to be. Thank you both. Thank everybody for listening to us, and we'll see Andrew in a couple of weeks.